SoulWhat, a SoulTopia podcast with our wonderful producer, Matt Stoker. I am Michelle Welch.
And I'm Roger Welch, where we are live without a 3-second delay, and Michelle's in a mood.
And we have with us our wonderful one and only Carlton.
Hey.
Who works at our store, who reads at our store, he really is just a friend of our store, if you really want to just put it.
It's true. I love doing everything. So
He's a friend of SoulTopia is really the best way I could put it, because, hey, we know who's a friend of SoulTopia and who's not. There we go, beeper.
Where's that? Did you get that? Damn it.
I love it.
Matt, what'd I tell you?
Matt,
What'd you need that
Matt,
fucking
are you
3-second delay?
ready with that, Michelle? Yeah.
That's good.
Well, you know what? Our topic tonight is going to be psychic scams. And
Dun, 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 dun.
we can start with that because Roger and I did get into this business because we love it. And we love our store. And we love working here. And we love almost most of the people who work here. And so, no, seriously. It's like our baby, right? It's like our baby. And it ties perfectly into the topic because we wouldn't be in this business if we didn't love it and believe in it, right?
Well, yeah, and our whole goal for SoulTopia in the beginning was to have a business where, for not just us, but for anybody and everybody to have a safe practice, to be safe, have a safe environment around them, safe, with people coming in, just people who work here, everybody to just have a safe, no drama area, just kind of and customers can come in and shop and they don't feel harassed, they don't feel like they got scammed, they don't feel like they were taken advantage of too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you made a little post earlier.
Yeah.
What was your little post? It was something about psychics.
Oh, I had to go back and look because I don't remember.
While he's looking.
Oh, here it is. That was the one. I should have sent it to you, Matt. But it says, thoughts on psychics, scam or not? What does your crystal ball say? But I did it because tonight we are talking about the different scams and how to protect yourself and kind of be aware of those things.
Right. And so let's just hit it head on. There was a friend of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Or an acquaintance from out of town,
From
probably
a
from
while.
Mississippi, let's be honest.
Alabama.
Okay, Alabama. There you go. Well, that explains it. No, I'm kidding, but not really.
Not really.
Roger's not kidding because you're not a big fan of
No.
okay, so
My cousins live in Alabama.
Tennessee and Alabama.
I still give them crap about living in Tennessee or in Alabama.
So this person posted back, well, yeah, I don't believe in any psychics, to be honest. And I said, Roger, I thought this person was like your friend. And he's like, oh, he doesn't know what I do for a living. I was like, okay, well, clearly y'all aren't that good friends.
We were friends 25 years ago.
Okay, so you used to be friends.
So it's like, for like 25 years, we were tight.
You grew up together.
No, actually, he's actually a lot older than I am. I mean, but we worked together, and it was that work acquaintance who became a friend. We did a lot of trips together, hung out a lot. But I lived in Tennessee when I was in Nashville.
I don't need this whole thing.
But that's how we knew each other.
But I love you. But no, yeah. Because I want to bring Carlton in.
Where's that buzzer again?
So Carlton, it's good though. It's okay to be a skeptic.
Yes.
So he's being a skeptic, and that's okay. And I would encourage people to a certain extent to be a skeptic. How do you feel about that?
I think so too. I always say it's best to always question, and when you don't question like you normally do, you have to even think, why am I not questioning normally? Because I feel people with different opinions, people with different perspectives add knowledge to you. They give you different kind of ideas on ways to look at things. And that's why I fell in love with SoulTopia, because I saw eggshell powder with candles, with tarot cards, oracle bracelets, and it had everything for everybody.
Right.
And so I always think that you have to be very kind of set your eyes on where you're going. And if you vibe with the place, truly understand your loyalty. Like see that vibe is for a purpose. You feel comfortable, not just for some random reason, right? You feel comfortable because it gives you everything you need. You're an integrator too.
Right. So why do you think, you guys, Matt, you can join in too. Matt, what do you think what to you would be like a red flag? We'll go around the room, keep it like to one or two things. What do we think would be a typical red flag? Well, first of all, let me say that I think there can be scams in every business. in almost
definitely.
every business, right? And some businesses and professions have more regulations than others, right? So that's why there might be more scams in some businesses than others. But I'm a lawyer, and I can tell you there's lawyers who can scam you too, right? But you don't want to lose your bar license. But what do you think, Matt? And we'll go around the room. Might be like a sign that you might be look out for that might be give you a heads up that somebody in this business might be kind of scamming you.
I think for me, it would probably. I mean, obviously, you could get like a feeling off of them, but I think if they were very pushy about something, either pushy about money or pushy about getting you to come in and see them or something like that, like kind of pressuring you into either, pay me this right now or do this or whatever. Not that people should.
I
get
totally
paid,
agree.
but,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like making you feel very uncomfortable.
I totally agree. And don't you think that can be applied to a lot of other businesses also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of wonder when that car salesman is, and I'm not picking on car salesmen because I know a lot of good ones, but when they're being really pushy, or when somebody in sales is being really, really pushy, you kind of pull back, and you kind of got to wonder, why are they being so pushy, right? So that's one thing. Carlton, give me one of your top things you would tell people to look for.
I love it because we talk a lot about this in the Intuitive Insights groups. Questions. If the psychic or the reader has lots of questions. I always say there's a difference between genuine understanding, where the psychic's really just asking to get, a clear image in their kind of sight. But if you get somebody's like, what's your birthday? Is this very valid to you? Is this resonating with you? Am I going somewhere with this? And they keep asking those questions, and then in the end you're like, well, now they know everything about me. It's like, always realize when there's a difference between too many questions, and that's for me. That's really my red flag, if they just keep asking. But then if it's just genuine, of course, then that's fine. Just asking a question to know more. But
You mean like,
yeah,
I feel
right.
there's
Like a
somebody
gallery,
in
yeah.
this room
That
that somebody passed, and their name begins with one of the letters of the
So
alphabet.
Yes, that.
Like that?
Yeah, almost like
Maybe.
that. Yeah.
So what would be, for you, what would be your sign that you would look for?
For me, it's the two things. One, kind of like what y'all were saying, a lot of times even they may come off as kind of legit a little bit to begin with, because they do come off as a very legit coming around. And then, maybe 2-3 times you come in, oh yeah, it's $50. And then all of a sudden you go from $50 to $1,000. And they're actually using a lot of scare tactic things like.
Oh, that's two things.
Yeah, that's what I
I was
said.
going to do the scare.
Oh well, I won't say that.
Told y'all I'm in the mood.
And the other thing though that I was going to say is that none of they kind of go up on what they charge you for your service, but then you also have where they're like extreme charging, like. Look at this crystal. It's the one-of-a-kind crystal. It has your name in it, and it's only $3,000.
Because that happened in our store.
It
We said
happened,
that last
yeah.
week, didn't we?
It didn't actually happen in our store.
Not in our
Yeah.
store, but somebody
too.
told
Somebody
us that happened.
actually, it happened to that was shopping in our store. Yeah.
They
And
were
we'll talk about
shopping.
that. Yeah.
They were shopping. Well, let's just clarify it.
Yeah, they
because-
were shopping in our store. They had picked up some of the quartz crystals that we have in the back. They're $12 quartz crystals, right? And she's like, are you serious? These are only $12. Yeah, they're only $12. And she's like, well, I had this psychic from New Orleans, and she had been hunting for crystals and called me and told me she had found one for just me that had all my energy for it. It had a message for me, and it was only going to cost her $3,000.
So that would be like
For
a
the same thing we're
big
selling for
red
12.
flag, right? And especially, I like how you said how that they gain your trust. Somebody who gains your trust slowly, and they start off charging whatever that would be in the area. That would be like a nominal fee, a fair amount. They gain your trust, and then all of a sudden it jacks up because of what you were legitimately leading into. Because bump, bump, bump. We've talked about this a lot. They want to scare you. They tell you that there's a curse on you. There's something that they need to get off of you. You have bad energy around you, and you need to pay this much money to get that off. Clearly, that's like the obvious, okay? But the thing about that, why people get caught in that, is a lot of people are embarrassed to report that. Okay, so they're embarrassed to tell somebody that I got scammed. They're embarrassed to say, I paid somebody $3,000 to get a curse off me. They're literally ashamed because they're going to think, I was, in retrospect, they look at it and they go, that was ridiculous that I did that. But in the moment, they're scared. And so they pay it. And so then even in states where, and it is fraud, so you could report that anywhere, okay, just so you know, that would be fraud. And even in states where it's not as easy and there aren't as many regulations, people might be scared to say something about that, right?
Yep.
Mine would be, just to list some more that might be some red flags, is location. I do think there can be legitimate people who read out of their homes, but I will say that typically, and I don't want people who read out of their homes to get mad at me, but typically I would start off with somebody who reads from a store or from an establishment where you know what you're getting.
You mean not Starbucks?
Or they're not asking to meet you somewhere like
Burger King.
the corner bakery or Starbucks or Whataburger or something. Now there
Could you imagine that Whataburger doing a reading?
Well, I hate
With the French
Whataburger,
fries.
so I couldn't even imagine.
Can you get me a chocolate shake and some fries with that? I'm gonna get you some fries and a chocolate shake. Don't worry, you're reading. I'm gonna charge you only
Hey, maybe that's
$250 for
Wait,
that
maybe
15
that's a
minutes.
really good idea though, because that drive-through
drive,
line at
right?
Whataburger's really long. So maybe we're onto something. Like there could be
Well, some of them have
Whataburger
some of them have the
readings.
2 lanes going around, so you could double up.
Double up and do
true,
the
that's
drive-through Whataburger readings.
true.
But I'm going to clarify because I don't want anybody to get upset that there can be legitimate people for sure who can read out of their homes. But because that's not especially safe to bring people into your homes for healings or readings, I would never recommend it. In fact, there's somebody who
Actually,
works.
that could be kind of scary.
There's somebody who works for, I won't say his name, but he heals here a lot. He comes in here and does energy work here a lot. And he's been in this business for a long time in this town, in Dallas, Texas. And he even says, he gives that advice to anyone who's going into this business. He says, work in a store because you're not going to have longevity if you don't. You typically, now, if you worked your way up and you've gained that reputation, then I have a healer that I know that she heals out of her home, and she's one of the best healers I know. And I'll just say her name, Cynthia Shaw. She is one of the best healers in town that I know, and so she is an exception to that. But in general, if you don't have a clue, if you have no clue who you're getting, you haven't talked to somebody about the reputation of who you're going to, there is something to be said for that. A neon sign hanging in somebody's home. And let me tell you why. Because most neighborhoods aren't going to let you kind of just hang that sign anyway. And then it's not because I'm talking about the neighborhood being bad. I'm talking about the fact that it's just, you want to find out the credibility of the person. And let me just tell you, that's not my own thought. That's like in about every article you read about how to not get scammed it's better probably to go through an establishment that has the readers when you start, and then or get a recommendation for that person. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of disclaimers in there, but I just know a lot of readers might get offended by that. But put yourself on the side of somebody who's never ever heard of who they're going to. Another one. Can I do one more? I'll go back around. Another one. A way. Something. What would you want to look for then? What would you want to look for? I'll start. Get recommendations. And there are a lot of ways to get recommendations. But one way I would say not to get recommendations is don't always trust the 10 top readers in or Google or whatever, the 10 top so-and-so readers.
Actually, some of those articles you find, like when you first, that's not technically Google reviews or YouTube, or not YouTube, what's the other one? Yelp reviews. It's just the random, you Google top 10 readers in Dallas, and it's a random link that comes up with a bunch of readers on it. Yeah, those you don't trust.
I can tell you even from, the only thing I can really compare it to is law. You can pay for a lot of that stuff. You can pay to be listed as a top 10 lawyer in this, and you can pay for an ad. And you can pay for those in Texas Monthly. That's a pretty well-known magazine, but there are some of those articles that you don't pay, and you get voted by your peers for that. And then there's some that you've paid for the ad, and the lawyers know which ones you've paid for the ad and which ones you've been voted. But other people, they think, oh, wow, this is one of the top lawyers. Same with psychics, right? Same with that. Who else?
yeah.
What else would you say would be a good way to know?
Probably kind of pay attention to the money. They should actually have like we do. We actually have these are our services we have to offer. These are the prices for those services. They have a time frame, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and they have pricing for that. So kind of you want to pick somebody like that versus the ones that have maybe some random etheric price they pull out of their ass and
Like an hour night
and then
tattoo.
or they have hidden fees.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, you want it to be very transparent about what they services they offer and what fees they charge versus just randomly pulling numbers and oh yeah, I could normally do that for 500, but for you it's only 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that
have it
type.
set.
You want to set pricing with that, yeah.
And also a website. That's why I believe in stores, because they have websites. I believe that gives. I'm not saying everybody now can make a website, but usually if a store has a website, you can see what the store's kind of goal is, their story is. That's why I agree with stores going to a store first instead of a private psychic, just because they have a vibe to the store. They have been vetted by the store. They have kind of the experience in the store of how to read. And then, like Roger said, they have set prices. They cannot come at you later and say, oh, today your 30-minute reading will be 120, not 75, because you're a second-time guest kind of thing. You know, people will do that. They'll say, well, first-time reading is $50 for 30 minutes, and then you go again, and it's like 150 for the same price. So just always make
I've
sure.
never even heard of that.
Yeah, so
Man, I
they
would think
do,
you'd go
they do.
down
You
for
know,
like frequent flyer.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you'd get a better
It's kind
price.
of
Not a
it's kind of
higher
like going to
price.
get the massage. Your massage
Exactly.
today is $50. Oh, your first time, $50.
And
I
I
think you
I
get
don't
better-
like that first time deal kind of thing with
Yeah.
reading. If you're gonna if you're gonna say your readers are good, first time should be just as good as every time. That's how I feel on that. So I'm not saying no offense to anybody who does discount first time readings. I just don't think that should be like you say, Shell, sometimes a gimmick. You shouldn't try to get people that way. If it's gonna be one price, give it for everybody. It's fair, and that's how you can, or at least I kind of go with or recommend myself with people.
Yeah.
You know, and of course energy, but really I see the store, I see the vibe, and then I choose if I'm going to get a reading.
And
from
I'm
them.
still going to give that little disclaimer because I have a lot of friends who read from home, especially now during COVID and stuff. And because you can read on Zoom, a lot of them are really good. But again, you want that recommendation, right? You want to get, Matt's maybe been to somebody. I could say, Matt, who's good? I could say, Carlton, who's good? And that, so I'm not saying you just have to go to store. Matt, what positive thing would you look for?
Well, I was going to actually say, like, maybe one of my red flags would be somebody who always tells you something that you want to hear. So it might be, on the flip side of that would be, I would more readily trust someone who's willing to not necessarily give you bad news, but tell you what they're really feeling. And if they don't have a good feeling about something, then they're willing to say that and not just always, sugarcoat everything.
So not a sugar coater.
You don't want the
Matt
fluffy
doesn't
bunny.
wanna-
Yeah.
No fluffy bunny.
No fluffy bunny, sparkly unicorns.
I mean, maybe some days you need that, but I think it would be suspicious if every time I went to them, they were like, this amazing thing's going to happen to you, and you're going to get all this, and
Agree.
and if none of that were to come to pass, they would just say, well, just wait, keep coming, and we'll keep working on it.
I agree. I think that's a huge one that is hard for readers because some of them will do that because they want you to like them and they want you to keep coming back. And it's hard to deliver the bad news, but I think that's a really, really good one, Matt.
Yeah, and I might even say that like that person is not necessarily scamming you. Because you're right, like it could be somebody who just doesn't feel comfortable telling you, but I would feel better about a person who was willing to say that stuff, and I would feel less likely like I'm being taken advantage of.
Right.
Well, it goes back to what I always tell people, life is good and bad. It's just at what point in time are you at, good, bad, whatever. So when your readings come across, they should have good and bad in it.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible.
Reality,
Good and bad things come up.
Yeah.
You know,
Depending
not
on what you're
always.
talking
Yeah.
about. So when we're talking about so scams, we went over sort of we can look at location, some things you might want to look at, some hidden fees, scare tactics. What else?
Here, I got this one I found. This actually
This
had.
is the AARP at the
Well, it's an
top.
article. It's an article from the
somebody-
Who's
AARP.
sending that to me? I've been
This
getting
is
those
actually-
lately.
This is actually a guy in New Jersey. He's in his 50s. He's having problems at work, so he went to a psychic for help. Okay. Now, it doesn't actually say how he met this person or anything like that, but upon their first reading, okay, messages coming across, right? She insisted that he come back for a second. So that probably should be a little bit of, a little bit of a red flag there. Come back for a second,
Yeah,
right?
Get it.
Which then the second comes out with, you have a curse. It might be devastating your family, and it has to be removed immediately. How about that?
Not good.
Here's what she asked for. She asked him to bring her $9,000 in a pillowcase with 9 white roses, 9 red roses, and magnets. And she would perform a ritual and soon return the $9,000.
I read a similar article.
Now,
to
see
that.
how I laughed? See how we all kind of laughed? That's why nobody wants to tell anybody, because you laugh at it. But when you're in it, you're scared, right? Because you're scared there's a curse been put on you.
And they believe it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not just stupid people who believe
no,
it.
it's
Because
they-
you
because
you
they're
think,
going
oh
through
crap,
something.
because you're
Yes,
already in
they
a bad
are.
place. You're already
Exactly.
thinking. A lot of times people go to people and they'll ask me. They'll say, "I've really had a run of bad luck. Have I had a curse put on me?" And I'm like, well, first of all, let's look at what's going on, that maybe we can change the course of this. But some people, and it's some cultures too, are more apt to believe. And Carlton, talk to me about that, because it's your culture, actually. And you and I have talked about that.
And it's big. It's big in the Hispanic growing up in this culture. I even, the article is very familiar to the one I was going to bring up, because in my culture, you can see different kind of energy practices. And the same thing, the article I read, they went to them and said, bring me 15,000. I'll give you 3 gold coin pieces. And this was kind of a healing the curse, getting rid of la ojo kind of mal. So evil eye is a big thing in our culture too. And so people really will go. And what happens is I say they feed the monster or the bear too. So this person, this article, he ended up going up to, I think it was like 500,000. They ended up getting about 10 or 15 gold coins. And yet by that time, they double mortgaged. And so, of course, these stories are extremes, right? But exactly like Michelle said, they don't say anything to anybody because they're embarrassed. They did a remortgage. They did 10,000s on top, because these psychics tell them, if you don't bring me this money, don't get these coins, then your family's going to get hurt. Things like, they go after scare tactics, but with your family, your children, and that's when it gets really ugly. And that's why I don't like it, because they'll increase the amount of money and they'll tell you, no, you have to bring this amount, because then your child will have this.
I think this begs
like
a really important question then. For those who do believe, whether it's just their personal belief or their cultural belief, that for them legitimately believe in curses, okay? Because some people do. So I don't think people should just laugh that off or think that's silly that somebody believes that. Then how, Carlton, could that be handled in a non-scam way to help that person? How is that handled in a legitimate way?
So that's perfect, because the first thing that comes to mind in my childhood, even every adult could never talk bad to a child in a way that it was felt like a curse. Like everything, like saying anything like you'll never amount to anything, like something like that to a child, being 7 or 8. They would say to that person, if it's an adult, don't you curse my child like that. And so in a Hispanic culture, we really thought that even something as simple as that was a curse. And so my grandmother would always tell me, just don't think about it, right? And it's not about don't really think about it or don't give it life, but really what I started thinking is the more I even thought, and that's why I believe some people really think curses are real, but the more power you give them based in thought. Like say somebody tells me I won't amount to anything, and I hear that every day of my life until I'm 18, it's going to happen, right? I'm going to think that something in me is going to really agree with this curse because that adult really mattered to me in that moment. So that's why I don't think, curses are real. but you have to learn a way to deflect it in your own personal way. So then you can I love what we say, we're bigger than it, right? So it does happen. You deflect it and you are bigger. So you don't have to worry, but you have to go through it, right? If it feels like a curse, then go through it. I always tell people, don't think that you shouldn't go through whatever. There is no such thing as escaping reality in metaphysics. You have to live the energy. So live through it, transmute it, deflect it, do something, but do something. Just don't just try to get it to go away.
Do you think
magic.
then that there is ever a time that a reader or a psychic or whatever you want, intuitive, whatever you want to call it, that we can help someone who truly believes in a here's what I would say, what I would do. We do have ethics classes, continuing education here at SoulTopia. I've been saying this on the show a lot, that we're going to make that available to other people, and I've presented it at different conferences, and I've had panels of people from some of the best tarot and best people in divination speak on these panels, but people have different opinions about it. But here, what we do, Carlton, and tell me, I think you agree with it, but so somebody, instead of saying, oh, there's no way there's a curse on you, because they believe that with all their heart, how would you, thinking about time here, being short, how would you say, what tools would you give them besides, walking through it? Would you, here's what I would do. I would not ever do anything for them or give them a reading. I might say, if you believe that, here are some tools, or tell them some things they could do. But I'm not going to take money from them, and neither is SoulTopia, to get off a curse. But if they really believe it, I'm also not going to try to make fun of or diminish their belief, or try to make them believe something that they believe with all their heart. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And that's how I felt like things. I love the way you put it one time when I had selenite. It's just there to help. And so if anybody does come with a worry of a curse or something placed on them, I'll give them my perspective and of course in love, and walk them through what tools they can use. Like we have selenite, black tourmaline, things that can use that energy of curse for something that you can do with it, that you can actually make. I always believe in transmutation. Like that's why I love Michelle's book. I really do. I think it's something that we all should kind of work towards, because you can really make energy into usefulness. It's not about just, experiencing life and not using the energy given, So use it. And that's why I think, don't ever take money to promise something either. That's not the goal of what life is about. And that's why I agree with ethics strongly. You do not promise what you really don't think you can give, and that's how I believe. So I believe I can only tell them, we have stones that can help you. There are candles that you can light that have color methods that can help, but I will never encourage. I will never allow that thought form to kind of get bigger, feed the bear kind of thing. I don't do
those
that.
are tools,
Yeah,
like you
these are
said. Like
tools.
we
Yep.
say, they're tools.
Yep, they're tools for you.
And Roger, tell me what I know. I was going to say we're out of time, but the fact about lottery and addressing that guy, what he said about psychics, and the fact that that he believed your friend at the beginning. He said, well, I don't think any psychics are real, and it's all a scam. And of course, I wouldn't have stopped law and a good practice of law that I had.
I buy lottery tickets like once every 2 years, and Michelle's like, are you crazy? Why are you wasting your money on that shit?
It is a waste of money.
It is.
Tell them
And I know, in my gut, know it's a waste of money.
But say why.
And the reason is because, you're one of a million people out there wanting to win the lottery. You're like burning candles, trying to win the lottery, trying to get that fast money.
Imagine all that.
But it's at the end of the day, you're one of a million people doing the same exact thing, and that energy's so scattered out there that it's only going to happen for one person. Because if you all win the lottery, you all get 50 cents.
Well, this is why what I explain, why I don't do give lottery numbers or give lottery readings or things like that. And there might be somebody who's better on those type of global readings, or like I've said before, those kind of even Nostradamus global worldwide readings. But when there's a lot of energy going into everything is energy. So when there's a lot of energy going into one thing, if we were to give a reading on that there's a lot, that energy's all going to be scattered. Because what if everybody was getting readings on what numbers to get for one winner? Okay, that energy is just completely scattered. So that's my philosophy of why I'm not going to give numbers, and why that doesn't mean that every psychic should be a billionaire, because if every person who had some intuitive also another thing I don't think any psychic should ever do to you is I don't think any psychic should ever guarantee you that they're always right. I'm right a lot. I hear back from my clients that, but that's not what it's about. It's not my ego. It's about, am I helping them or not? I like the feedback. I like to know I'm making a difference and doing something that's good. But if you have a psychic that tells you, guarantees that what they're doing, they guarantee it. Even doctors don't guarantee. But does that mean then that doctors are scams? All because they can't guarantee that it's 100% success? That doesn't invalidate what they do. It just says that they're not always going to work. And so psychics, it's not just because you don't always see every single thing different. We see different things at different times. I may say a lot of things, and Matt, you know this. There's times I don't always try to give you like unsolicited readings, but I have. I'll go, Matt, what's going on? But there have also been times when I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, what's going on? And I'll feel something, but I'm just kind of like, what's going on? Like, I can feel it, but I'm not really sure. And I'm honest about that, I think, to most people, right? And so with my readings, when people come to me, if I don't get it and I don't know, and we even teach that in our ethics class, tell them, you don't know. I'm not getting it right now. I might need to send you to somebody else. I'm not, or we're not supposed to know right now. So that doesn't invalidate psychics. It doesn't make all psychics scam artists. You know, and so that's how I would answer that guy. And I asked you how you would, and then I just talked right over you. So what were you going to say?
I've already said it.
What was it?
Same thing.
Okay, I love you. I really do. But that little guy writing that, I was just like, I could think of like 20 ways to dispel that argument that makes you, just because you can't predict the lottery, that would make you all.
So he's almost not a prepper, but
Well, we don't. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
very much a conspiracy theory. You got to think about, a lot of people are conspiracy theorist type people, right? But there's a root cause to a lot of it. Nostradamus. They believe that what the oracle has said is actually, a lot of it is true. Think about that. There's a lot of the conspiracy theory of people that don't believe psychics are real, but believe what Nostradamus said is coming true.
Yeah.
Or some other type of prophecy.
Or some other prophecy.
Some other
prophecy.
And it's the same
good
thing.
point.
It's true.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Good point. Some sort of prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have anything else?
Oh, I did, but you skipped right over what I was going to cover. So
Say it really fast. I'm so sorry.
we got like 10 minutes.
Say it fast.
So a couple of things. One, I'm sure there's people out there saying, I would never get taken advantage of. I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm bullshit on that, because you never know what position you're in. All right, this happened in 2007. This is over a 5-year period. This happened to this girl. She's from Brazil. And this happened in Texas. Oh, goodness. Okay, so it's close. It's in Texas here, real close. It happened over 5 years. And she was 27. She was a med student. Pretty smart. Okay, she's a med student. She was at the mall shopping, but she was a little bit distraught, kind of crying. Her mother had just passed away. Her boyfriend broke up with her. So she was kind of feeling a little heavy, right? This 17-year-old girl comes up to her and starts talking to her and tells her, I'm a psychic. You should come and get a reading. As those readings kind of progress, you got a family curse on you. Bring me $500,000 and I will actually remove the curse from your family. So she spent her inheritance. She became an exotic dancer while going to med school to help pay for this. And she literally paid the $500,000. But like I said, this was not a one-time deal. This was going on for 5 years. 5 years this went on. $1.6 million.
Wow.
$1.6 million that she had spent over the time with her. And
So did that
this
person
was a
go to jail?
7
Did the
this
psychic go
yeah.
to jail?
Oh, guess how long she went to jail?
Yeah.
13 months.
40 months.
40 months.
Okay.
40 months.
3 years.
And she has to pay back the $1.6 million, but They said there's no way that'll ever happen. That's
not
never
gonna
gonna happen.
No.
I was
Poor
trying to do the math
baby.
on that. 4.6 million, and that's only 3.5 years. That's a pretty good living.
Yeah,
That's a sad story.
it is.
But that does happen, and then you just people need it's. They hit the people. Those type of people are trained to know what to look for in a person to actually get their trust, bring their trust in, and try to then start taking advantage of them.
Their lowest point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
do. They
Yeah.
look for body language, everything.
Yeah,
Like,
everything.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and like I said, it was her inheritance, her school money. She had school loans, or had taken school loans and used that money, all that. Actually became an exotic dancer to help pay it,
And
all
so,
that stuff.
so one thing you might want to know, just briefly, to sum it up, depending on what state you live in, or some people listen to this show, we have people even outside the United States, but we'll talk about just the United States. Just know that you can look at your state, but even if different states have different things. Texas is, we don't have as many restrictions. That's why I really do recommend the stores. And again, not everybody, but like I said before, but also if there is some type of thing where you've been taken advantage of, that falls under fraud. Okay, and that's what would you do about it? That would be like probably the DA's office, right? Because
Actually, if it goes through the mail, it's mail fraud, and at that point, it's FBI.
so
it's federal.
then it would be, and still fraud, and because interstate commerce, and so, but because but in other states like New York, you do have to have a license, and you do have to get that license, and I think New York, but other states, maybe Florida, certain states, you do have to have that license, and you have to say it's for entertainment purposes only, and all
I
those
think
kinds of
Oklahoma's
things.
that way, isn't it?
I don't know all the jurisdictions, but just know you can always know if, and it's not. We focus a lot on curses and things like that, but it's not just that. It's when it's the money, and it's the hidden fees, and and really when they're increasing it. And I think we kind of touched on the main
Yeah.
things.
Check this out. Even the United States Postal Inspection has a list on their website for this.
Oh, really?
That's how, because they say this is actually like a $5 billion year, business. Just the psychic reading side. It's $5 billion a year. But I think it's a lot more than that. And the reason is a lot of people pay cash, and they're embarrassed not to say, I got scammed by 100,000 or 1,000 or whatever it is. I guarantee you it's a lot more than 5 billion. But even on the United States Postal Inspection Service, on the website, here's what it says to watch out for. Watch out for promises and fees, okay? If they guarantee you for good fortune, good health, wealth, anything like that, curses, back to that, right? Never give out your financial information. I barely give it to Michelle, guys. So don't give this is a random person you met. Don't give out your financials to people that you
And
just
I
met.
don't
Even a
want to
birthday.
know them. As
Not
you
even a
read,
birthday.
just be honest. Yeah.
Let's see. Research the price of services. We talked about that. Okay. Make sure you know what you're getting into when you're going to get a reading. Ask about any hidden costs, any cost after the fact. Okay, if they require anything, or if there's anything like that, discuss with a friend. We covered that, right? Yeah, those are really what was on the website for that. I mean, and I think if you can kind of keep, kind of pay attention to it, and and like Matt was saying, keep your radar up.
Yeah.
If it doesn't seem right,
Probably not right.
And the reason
It's
this is
probably
so
right.
important right now is because psychic readings have gone up. It was a couple months ago about 65%, and it's now they've about doubled. People's readings have about doubled since COVID, and because people really are wanting certainty, but they're wanting it kind of in the most uncertain of times, and so that means a lot of people are really searching for these answers for whatever it is. I've been interviewed for about that subject, and it's not always because they're uncertain about health; they're uncertain about everything in life right now. So across our country, at least, the readings this business has exploded. So you really do want to be careful and no, not everyone is out to scam you. We are there are legitimate people and legitimate people reading from homes too. They're legitimate people. Just do your homework like you would anything else. If you were going to go buy a car, I would hope you would do your homework. So just do your homework. And don't be embarrassed to ask people if you're in a bad situation to say, you know, somebody's wanting this money, and then to go into a legitimate place and say, is this something I should do? Yeah. Don't be embarrassed to do that, because no one should make fun of you about it. It's very serious, and most of the time, it's when you're in a bad place that people do take advantage of you, I think, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I don't think we have time for any readings tonight because, you know, we need to let Matt and all of us get home. But hopefully this can help some of us. And we are here for all of you guys if you do want a reading. And I am doing what is called forecast readings for 2021. And it's interesting on those. They're not going to tell you every single thing that's going to happen in 2021. That's not what those are about. What I'm saying on those is, why don't we work on manifesting a better 2021 instead of forecasting what's going to happen to us? Why don't we work on manifesting what can happen? And that's how I'm starting to look at a lot of my readings. Course correction. Instead of saying this is what's going to happen to you, why don't we see what's going on and see how we can change. Excuse me. I can't talk.
Need a drink? I got my drink under the table.
Well, I usually close out the show. Why don't you do it? So I can't talk.
So, so yeah, guys. So if you have any questions or anything, hit us up. Let us know, and you can check our show out on YouTube. Michelle SoulTopia on YouTube. SoulWhat on Facebook. SoulTopia page on Facebook, and any of the podcast platforms from from any of those. And thank you, Matt. Thank you, Carlton. Thank you, Michelle.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Thanks
Y'all
for
have a great
joining
night.
us.